Hi, welcome to my channel. This is the third and final video of my Witch's Cottage series. And while this piece started out with just a few cutting guides and some cardboard scraps, packaging pieces, now we're here. This is where we're at. And while I started with trash, there were a few things that I just couldn't really achieve with the materials I have available to me and the skills that I have. And so I did end up going to the dollar store. I got a few things to help with the cosmetic side of things. I really wanted this to be magical and whimsical. And so I really got into the details. There's super tiny things in there. Like if you see the broom, comment, let me know, because that thing's tiny. Anyway, I got super excited by this project, super inspired, and I hope it inspires you too. So without further ado, let's get into this project. So first I'm gonna be starting with the well. I used cardboard and toothpicks and copious amounts of glue. And I separated the corrugated cardboard, like the layers of it, so that I could get this really cool wavy roof texture. And then I just glued it into place. This is one of the easiest pieces to make. I wanted to make a stack of firewood, so at the dollar store I found these little corn husk brooms, and I thought they were perfect for, or maybe they're straw. Found these perfect little straw brooms, thought they were perfect for firewood, so I just squooshed glue into the end of the bristles and cut them off. And now I'm moving on to some potion bottles. I just got some florist wire and dabbed some super glue onto it and slid some beads onto the wire. And I did the same thing on a curved wire for a globe. And this was a little more tricky because I had to have it at a very specific spot. Then I just painted everything. This paint is actually phosphorescent, so it does glow under a black light. So there's just kind of a cool added dimension with that paint. And of course we need a table to set everything on, so popsicle sticks are the perfect thing for this. And then I had to move on to and create a couple of spell books. Now, I don't know if there's any techniques that are used to make miniature books, but I do know the technique to make like full-size journals. So I just scaled that down and used wire instead of string and paper grocery bag paper, and I just fastened it all together. Once I had everything glued down, I used super glue to kind of secure the cover and cover up that wire. Once all that was done, I trimmed it down. And I just find that it's easier to use wire cutters in the trimming part rather than scissors, because scissors will give you an uneven cut. And then I just gave it a base coat of brown paint. These little scissor tweezer things are the absolute best. Then over the wet brown paint, I added some blue and gave it kind of a weathered turquoise cover. And there is my astrology tower. There's even a little telescope that I made. So now we're moving on to wheat. This was tricky and frustrating. Hot glue does not really permeate bristles very well, and I don't know if it was these specific ones or bristles in general. But as you can see, like the center didn't get any glue, and so I had to go back and I had to re-glue everything. But finally I got to the point where I can just glue it into the garden, and it was a little too tall for the scale we're working for. I know this is whimsical and fantasy, but I do think that our wheat was too tall, so I'd give it a haircut. And then to protect the wheat from any tiny little scavengers or varmints, I made a fence out of toothpicks and skewers, and it just got glued into place. And there is the backside of the witch's cottage. Not quite complete, but it's getting there. Now I'm going to be working on some moss. I picked up these facial sponges from the dollar store. Don't worry, they're brand new. haven't been used, and I just gave them a coat, honestly a little uneven, just to help build up some dimension and texture before I do a paint wash. So now I'm just ripping everything apart so it has kind of that warped organic feel, and then I made a paint solution with water, paint, and then I actually ended up adding some leftover rock paint that I used in the previous video, as well as some extra baking soda. And what that's going to do is just thicken things up, add some clumps here and there, as well as when it dries, it will kind of like calcify some pieces and give it an even more weathered look, because it'll have some like lighter, drier white bits, which I think are really cool. So I set those off to the side to dry, and now I'm turning my attention to our little pond area. So obviously all of this is too big, so I had to separate it out and trim it down and bundle everything up so that I'd have tiny little plants. I also got to work on our waterfall. This used to be my cheese tongs, and then they stopped tonging because they broke. And now it's a waterfall because hot glue and paint. Anyway, so I found the perfect placement for that, and then I started putting in all of the different plants that I wanted in the pond area. To do this, I just stabbed a hole in the paint underneath and coated it in hot glue and shoved it in. So I made some of that rock paint again, but this time I used blue. So a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of blue, and I let it set for a little bit before I put that plastic on. Then I just poked it to create a ripple texture. And now I'm moving on to some shrubs. While I did end up buying a lot of greenery, I still needed to do a little bit of extra to it. So I just coated it with hot glue and rolled it in some flocking I made in the first video. And then I used the same stabby technique to attach it to the base, and I did this all around the cottage for shrubbery. Off camera, I ended up gluing the flocking in place. It was just so messy and frustrating, but totally worth it in the end. I also added a ton of little details like mushrooms, moss, benches, and a wee little broom. Did you see it? I had so much fun with this project, and I can't believe it started out as literal garbage. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below what type of miniature you think I should take on next, or just let me know what your favorite part of this project is. Like and subscribe if you want to see any more of my projects.